Week 8's in the books. The Big Mountain was 2-1 on ice cold locks. Let's break it down.
College football is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Hey, it's great to have you back here on the mountain. I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve. We want to do a reaction video for Week 8. As I said, we were 2-1 on locks. Let's start with Steve's one lock for the week. That was the Michigan game, so went pretty good, Steve.
Yeah, so Michigan State. We took Michigan. We locked Michigan to cover 24.5. I think they ended up winning 42-0. I think was the final score. Just an absolute domination. Michigan is firing on all cylinders. Michigan State is just down this year, as we've talked about since the beginning of the season. And I texted you earlier today that locking this game was the easiest bet I made all year, and it was. I mean, I don't know how the spread was only 24.5. I would have made the spread probably 33.5, 37.5, something like that, and they end up even beating that.
Yeah.
So complete easy lock. We talked about this all season, but at the beginning of the season, Michigan was kind of sleepwalking. The worm has turned, and they are out there to show everybody they're dominating. Now, there is a little bit of news with the potential cheating scandal,
right?
Scouting and all that. So who knows? But you know what? This week, they just absolutely dominated. I mean, they didn't need to do any self-scouting on Michigan State because they could just line up and just destroy them, which is what they did.
Yeah.
So it was great. I think maybe 9-2 overall on my
9-2
locks
overall on locks,
including 9-1 in my Big Ten locks this year. So another, Michigan coming through for me again. So that was a great lock, easy pick to make.
And perfect on Michigan, 8-0, 4 don't covers, 4 covers in a row. We'll see what you tune into our weekly Week 9 picks coming up here in a few days. We'll see where Steve goes with Michigan moving forward, but he's 8-0. He's perfect on the season with Michigan right now. So
you want to talk about your locks?
Yeah, I had 2 of them. First one was, I thought it was almost as easy as the Michigan lock, and it didn't turn out to be quite as easy, and that was the Air Force game. I took them at 10.5 versus Navy. I watched quite a bit of this game. I know Steve was watching the Penn State game, and I was watching more of the Air Force game because that was my lock. And I don't know how this game was as close as it was. I mean, the Navy defense, the Air Force defense, just domination over Navy there. Navy couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. They did bring in a quarterback, a different quarterback. They started a freshman. He really struggled. They brought in another quarterback in the fourth quarter. He was able to move the ball a little bit, and yes, they scored a late touchdown, but that's when Air Force went into a complete turtle, complete prevent. They had won the game at that point. They just wanted to burn clock and let them do a dink and dunk down the field, which is exactly what happened. Got a little lucky, I think. They went for 2, which I don't know why they went for 2, but I was happy that they went for 2 and then didn't get it because that made us, win the lock there. But what really was a 17-0 game. Navy got that late touchdown again just because it was garbage time. It really didn't. I mean, if Air Force wanted to stop them again and play the way they played the whole rest of that game, they probably could have done it. But there really wasn't a point. They wanted to bleed the clock. They wanted to win the game. So we got the win there. A lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I was sending you some texts saying I'm not so sure what's going to happen.
You were upset.
I was very angry. And let me just say, speaking of that, I hated the way this first half ended. The second quarter was so frustrating to watch. Air Force would get it to around the 40-ish of Navy. They punted every time. They never went for it. They never tried to kick a field goal. Wind was a factor. If you were kicking with the wind, which they were in the second quarter, they just kept punting him and pinning him back, which I get that. You're going on, but you needed points at that point. Yeah. I mean, they should have been trying to get more points. It was 7-0, and then the wind bit them in the butt in the end of the third quarter. They totally screwed up, totally coaching here. They take a timeout, and then they get another game or get another play call, and then they don't take another timeout, so the kicker can kick with the wind. They let the quarter elapse. He then has to kick into the wind, and he misses it, and he missed 2 field goals. Yeah. I was so frustrated at this freaking game. You're right. I texted you. I was very frustrated, but we still got the win.
I think we were in separate locations, but we were each probably cussing at the TV.
Right.
I'm watching the Penn State game. You're watching Air Force. I did have a couple things I want to say about this game quick.
Yeah.
One, these academy games, the military academies against each other, weird things happen. They're always strange games. Air Force was obviously way, way better than Navy.
By far the better. Not even close.
Right. And so, it made sense for you to lock this game, and we ended up winning. So it's a good lock. It just ended up being a little tighter. I did see a stat, I think it was Friday, that I think the 30 out of the last 33 academy matchups have the under has hit. Every time. Yes, because they just and part of me I obviously when you're running the ball that much, you're running the option, you're just running. They just run, whether they're running the triple option or just running up the middle, whatever. When you're running the ball as much as they do, it's going to decrease the possession. Scoring is going to be down.
Right.
But I also wonder in these academy games, there's only like 5 Division I teams that play a triple option, that run this style of offense. And so usually when a team plays one of these academies, it's the only time they face this.
Right.
But they're seeing it in practice every single day. Yeah. So when they play each other, their defense is used to that. They're not stumbling all over themselves.
That's a good point. And they actually mentioned on the telecast that these are the games that they really look at and work over the summer and work in preseason type of stuff on these games, because I think partially because of that. They're very focused on these academy games.
Yes, and it's a big matter of pride. And it is. You're a Mountain West guy, and I'm sure Air Force, their fans and everybody really excited about how well they're doing in the Mountain West, how they have a chance to win. But I can guarantee you that the academy versus academy games, those are the most important games to them. Just pride. Right. I mean, they're prideful in serving their country, serving that particular branch, and when they can go against each other, it's like you playing against your brother in something. You want to beat your brother,
right?
You want that pride.
Yeah.
When you go to Thanksgiving, you want to say, "I whooped your ass."
That's right.
So, anyways, that's all I have to say on that game. Yeah. Great job. It was you. You locked it, and it won. It hits. I know it was a little frustrating, but it's another big mountain lock that won for us.
And Larrier did play in the entire. Yeah. He played the entire game. Looked a little bit off, but overall, I thought he played pretty well. I mean, considering there was the talk from the coach was that he's going to be out for a while, and there he is playing the game.
Yeah, so started the game right.
Out for a while, started the game. That's right, and that came out 24 hours before less than before game time, and the line definitely changed because of that. So the other one I locked was UNLV. Again, they were down 13-3 at the half. They only scored 1 touchdown in this game. Just not the offensive performance I was looking for. They did end up winning the game, beat Colorado State, but I had them at 7.5. They only won by 2, so clearly didn't cover. Solid game for UNLV. It was their homecoming game. But, again, when we're looking to cover it over a touchdown and you're down 13-3 at halftime, that's hard to overcome, and they came back and won. But they have Fresno State up next week.
Massive game,
and
we wonder if they were looking past that. We talked about this before in some other games.
Yeah, I don't know. It is. UNLV has had an easier schedule here to start the season, and they have they're a good team. They have a great record right now. But the rubber's going to meet the road, beginning with Colorado State. That was a good test for them. They got over it by 2 points. But now they're going to have some hard games coming up here with Fresno State, Wyoming, I think Boise State. So we're going to see what this UNLV team is really made of beginning next week.
And, I mean, if they could win 2 out of the 3 of those, very good shot of getting into the championship game if they could win 2 out of 3.
Yeah. This is a big game for both these teams.
Yeah.
They both come in, UNLV, Fresno State, both come in with 1 loss.
Yeah.
This will propel one up to potential Mountain West championship game, and the other one's going to be looking for a miracle, so to speak, people dropping off.
And UNLV's only loss, I've said this before, it's to Michigan. Which is maybe the best team in the country.
Yep. So those are our locks. What else you got, Steve? Any other games you want to talk about?
Yeah, a couple games. So I was 3-3 overall in the week, 1-0 in my locks. Took some weird losses. Iowa, for anyone who watched that game, with I think a minute or so to go, Iowa forces the punt. They forced Minnesota to punt the ball to them, which I was actually, before that, I was kind of mad that they punted to, but they had faith in their, like we've talked about, their defense and their special teams is better, are much better than their offense.
Yep.
So they punt the ball to Minnesota, forced Minnesota to punt right away, 3 and out. The Cooper DeJean, I think is his name.
Yeah.
He fields the punt. He goes up. He kind of waves some people, like telling people to move. He's pointing at the ball, telling people to move. Fields the punt. Awesome punt return. Looks like it's the game-winning touchdown. Looks like our pick is going to cover. They're going to cover the spread. They're going to win the game. Everything is wonderful. And all of a sudden, there's a review, and we were thinking at first, I think the announcers were thinking maybe that he had stepped out, so they were thinking. Well, they come back from the review, and something that I don't think anyone thought of was they said it was that he made a fair catch signal, which, I mean, literally the guy's doing this, telling people to move his arms. For me,
he was kind of directing traffic.
Exactly, he's directing traffic.
He was pointing here, and he's kind of going this way.
Yes,
nothing above the shoulders, let alone above the head.
Yes,
it was all kind of in this general area, but.
Absolutely crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen players tell people to get away,
Yes, right.
And it's never looked at as a fair catch.
Yeah.
But apparently they reviewed it and said that this was a fair catch signal. Wipes off the punt return for a touchdown and give it. Then Iowa still had a chance with their offense. Their offense is terrible.
Right.
So Minnesota got the win there. To me, and I don't even like Iowa, honestly. Like, I usually enjoy their misery. But just a weird game, weird way to end it. So we lost on that one. It is what it is. They lost the game. So I guess good job for Minnesota.
Yeah.
They got that assist. So the other game I want to talk about, another loss for me, Penn State. Everyone knows I'm a Penn State fan. Two really, really good defenses. We said the big matchup was going to be Penn State's defense against Ohio State's offense. And for most of this game, Penn State's defense looked amazing. They looked great. They held that offense in check. They rattled Kyle McCord. Ohio State's offense just couldn't get too much going. But the problem is Penn State's offense was even worse.
Yes.
They were just completely pathetic, completely futile. They came out, they actually were running the ball well, and then went away from it, put all the pressure on their young quarterback, making, I think, his third road start, Drew Aller, and he was not up to the task yesterday. He couldn't hit receivers. Some balls he was getting out too early, feeling the pressure that really wasn't even there, I don't think. And then other balls he was throwing late, other balls he was off target. He just was out of sync all day, and it just, the Penn State offense really couldn't do anything until the final drive for them. They're down a couple scores at that point.
Right.
And all of a sudden they start throwing over the middle. They throw slants to the receivers, through some crossers, throw to the tight end over the middle, and they march right down and score a touchdown. I don't know where those plays were all game. I'm not usually a play calling. I usually tend not to just say the play calling is horrible in college games. I actually like Mike Yurcich. I think he's done a pretty good job in most games since he got there. He had some great game plans against Auburn, and a lot of times it's execution, and there was some execution errors, but the play calling just did not make a lot of sense to me. They couldn't get into offensive rhythm. I was upset and yelling obscenities at the TV, probably just like you were during the Air Force game. But it is what it is. Ohio State got the win. Good win for them. All of Penn State's goals are still in front of them.
Sure.
They have Michigan at home later on in the season. They need to bounce back from this. So they're hoping now that if they can upset Michigan, and then Michigan could beat Ohio State, it'd be a 3-way tie. So that's their hope right now. But it just Ohio State was a little better. Honestly, the big thing, and you made this point to me, was the difference between Ohio State and Penn State in that game was Marvin Harrison Jr. Ohio State has Marvin Harrison Jr. Penn State does not have Marvin Harrison Jr. And when Ohio State's offense was not working, they couldn't run the ball, they couldn't do much. They just kept going back to that security blanket like they've done all season. Just chuck it to Marvin Harrison, and he made some great catches in the air, contested catches. He had a fantastic game. In some ways, Penn State held him in check, which sounds crazy when the guy has 13 catches for 185 yards. He didn't really have a lot of big explosive plays. He did have a touchdown a nice crosser, which again, I don't know why Penn State wasn't running those nice crossing routes.
Right.
Instead, let's run a 20-yard out and make Aller throw it, all the way to the sideline but whatever. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the difference in this game. Ohio State gets the win. Good for them. Penn State, they need to bounce back. They got a chance to beat Michigan, or it's just another one of those, 10-2 seasons with losses to Ohio State and Michigan.
Right.
So that's all for that game. That was enough misery for me. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Just a couple things. I mean, I had done 2 game day picks, and I was really going high and hard on Utah State here. I had taken them with the points against San Jose State, and I also took Utah State to be over 30.5 points. They have scored, until this game, they had scored 32 or more points in every game they've played this season, except for game 1, to which they played Iowa. As you will say, one of the
top 10 defense in the country,
right?
Iowa,
and they got 2 touchdowns against Iowa, right? So coming into the game, 32 or more points in every game that they've played, with the exception of the Iowa game. They get 21 points against the San Jose State team that is not known for their defense.
No.
And so really, really disappointed in Utah State's offense here. I'm not sure what happened. I watched some of this game. They just weren't clicking very well. 21 points in a game they should have been into in my opinion, pushing 40.
Yeah.
So they were about half of the amount of points that they needed. And San Jose State's offense looked really good. I mean, it was the offense that I have been expecting all season, and they were just crushing it all over. And if you look at the over, I took specifically the Utah State over. If you look at the game over, it also didn't hit.
Yeah.
San Jose State was above, but Utah State didn't score enough points to even get the game over to be over. So really disappointing game there from Utah State. The other one two more that just completely blow me away here, and San Diego State. Oh my goodness, 6-0 against Nevada.
Just a goose egg.
6-0.
Crap the bed.
And I said in the pick video, I wasn't. That was the least confident game that I had. But this was so it snaps Nevada's 16-game losing streak. Remember, they're in San Diego State. This game was in San Diego State.
Yeah.
Snaps and is the first shutout that Nevada's had in over 12 years. I mean, and you mentioned this team maybe has I hate to say it, but given up, or at least lost confidence in anything that's going on. A 6-0 loss at home to Nevada completely tells me that this team is done for the count. They are out. They've lost all confidence. Their number one yards were their quarterback rushing yards, and obviously throwing yards. But I don't know. I'm speechless, Steve. Yeah. I'm speechless on the Aztecs.
We've talked about them a lot this year, and after, they started with a good solid win at the beginning.
Yeah.
Had some losses, and we said they could go one way or the other. They could bounce back and still end up a solid, respectable like third, fourth in the conference.
Right.
Or this could be one of those spiraling out of control bad seasons.
Right.
It was pretty clear weeks ago that the fans had given up on Brady Hoke.
Yes.
And now after this game, I'm really wondering, has a good amount of the players given up on Brady Hoke and just quit on the season? Because how do you explain that? There's nobody that predicted San Diego State to even lose to Nevada, let alone roll a donut, not score any points.
All you have to do is score one touchdown and you win the game.
Yeah,
that's awful. All you got to do.
Just awful.
And it blows me away.
Yeah.
The other one that really surprises me here, Washington against Arizona State.
Yeah.
Washington did not have an offensive touchdown. The only touchdown they had was a defensive pick six. No offensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, against a 1-6 Arizona State team. Yeah. Okay, I get you didn't quite get the spread. You didn't quite get it. It wasn't even close. And your offense, which we have been touting as one of the best, maybe one of the best quarterbacks, and by one of the best, I'm talking top 2 or 3 in the nation, to do this to Arizona State, or not do this to Arizona State, again, that's I really am starting to wonder, how roller coastery is this? They had a huge game against Oregon. Yes, I would expect them to, have a little bit of an emotional letdown, but no offensive touchdowns against Arizona State. That's not good.
I didn't see any of this game, even a highlight. I did read a couple comments about the game from some national analysts, and I saw something about one of their top wide receivers was out for this game. And we've been high on Penix all year as a possible Heisman Trophy candidate. He was kind of one of my dark horses at the beginning of the season, and as of a week ago, he was leading. He was the leader as far as the current betting prospects for the Heisman Trophy. I think
favorite. He's the favorite.
He was the betting favorite. Now he has since after this game he's dropped behind JJ at Michigan.
Okay.
Which is
McCarthy.
McCarthy. We were wondering why he wasn't getting more Heisman love, and all of a sudden now he's the betting favorite.
He should be.
Yeah.
He absolutely should be.
So for Penix, is it a case of is he that Heisman Trophy contender? Is he that possible first round quarterback? Or is he a product of his wide receivers? You talked about the Oregon game, how those wide receivers made amazing catches.
Unbelievable catches.
Against Oregon. So we'll see how it is. I mean, Washington, obviously, it's a crappy loss. Nobody could have predicted that they would not have played well against Arizona State. Now, I will say they still have all of their goals in front of them. They're still undefeated. They have that big win over Oregon, so they can turn it around. But this game just didn't look good for them.
Not good at all. So, hey, let's go through our slides like we do every week. We'll go over this week's results. One in which you did okay. I did not do very well, and I need to pick it up.
Weird week in the Mountain West.
Yes and no. So we'll go over this week, and then we'll do the cumulative for you, and we'll come right back. All right, and that's where we stand here at the Big Mountain. We don't have any early line picks for you here this week, but we will be dropping our Week 9 pick episode on Thursday morning, so make sure that you're subscribed so you can get that. Turn on those notifications. Give us some comments on this. Tell us what you thought about some of these games. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.